Big opening, pass 5, pass 10. Perko's a man, and he goes all the way to the 15-yard line. 17 yards out the carry.
Welcome back to the Believe in Badger Football Podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, presented by betonline.ag. I'm your host, Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by Badger legend, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Matt Bernstein. Bernie, how we doing today?
Oh, man. We're doing great. We're 1-0.
1-0, baby. Can't ask for much. I mean, it's the result you want to see to start the year, right? 1-0. It wasn't the prettiest game at times. We'll get into that. But I think we can both be happy with the result of the game and a shutout. But before we get into it, we want to remind you guys that we are brought to you by betonline.ag. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league: Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, golf, and most importantly, college football. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting to props, futures, and more. Head over to betonline.ag today or use your mobile device to sign up and make your first wager. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BLEAV50, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Bern, you know what time it is. It's Monday morning fullback time. We're going to put 15 minutes on the clock, and we are going to break down what happened between the Badgers and the Illinois State Redbirds. All right, Bern, 38-0 victory. Defense looked awesome. Offense took a second to get going. Once they did, though, they started moving the ball in big chunk plays. What stood out to you?
Well, I mean, they also had the ball one time in the first quarter. And it was a 3-and-out, which I hate to see to start the game, right? Like, that's not what you want to see.
Oh, well, I really hated to see it start 3-yard run, incomplete pass. And like, this is just, I've seen this story a million times. I don't need another season of run, incomplete pass.
Very true. Now, what happened towards the game at the end or the whole time was not run, pass. I thought, listen, man, I was pretty happy with a lot of things that happened. I thought we were just slow out the gate. And that sloppy, that slowness, I'm happy it's Illinois State because we won 38-0. We had 0 turnovers. I think 7 or 8 guys caught the ball, 3 tight ends, I think. Like, we really played a well-rounded game. Now, I don't think that start gets us ahead of Ohio State, but I do think that it's a film that we can really, really work off of. I know those guys in the locker room. You know Herbie. You think that's okay with that guy? There's no way.
No, absolutely not. I don't think it's okay that they were that close to scoring and going up 7-0, and we needed a 100-yard pick six from the jewelry thief in order to break it open. Now, that was a good play. I mean, the ball was thrown right to him. I mean, it was like Zach Annexstad was passing to John Torchio and not to an Illinois State receiver.
First, it was a great play. I mean, what do we have? 2 records or 3 records?
Two school records. The 100-yard pick six, longest pick six in Wisconsin history.
And a 96-yard.
Yep, breaking James White's record, I think, of 92 yards before that or something like that. So, and then Graham Mertz and Chimere Dike had their career long in the 74-yard pass.
Got it. I can't believe he got caught, though.
I was so disappointed. Jim, come on, man. You're a burner. You're the kid who's supposed to run a 4.38. Where you at?
I think the dude took a good angle, so it may I get it, but you got Braylon Allen, who's like what 225 outrunning everybody.
240. Come on now,
220 for 240.
240.
Listen, I think we all have this question mark on Graham Mertz, so let's go there for a second.
Yeah, let's.
12 for 14, no picks. Really, to me, one mistake. Mm-hmm. First off, the guy dropped the ball on the first. It wasn't a bad pass. It was
it was like maybe a touch high, but I mean he got 2 hands on it really clean, and like that's a ball you got to catch every time. But that was to Marcus Allen, but he came back and then he had a couple plays after that looked really good. So I was glad to see that A, he bounced back, and B, that Coach Whitted has enough faith in his guys to say, hey, he's not just going to pull him after making one mistake.
Right. Listen, I completely agree. That would have been a huge play, right? Yeah. To keep the drive alive, put Illinois State down. But that's okay. Listen, these are the growing pains. This is what we're working with. I think that's what's great about having these games and some of these easier opponents is that we can work through these growing pains and these mistakes. So when we do go into Ohio State, we have 3 weeks of game film that will show mistakes and little corrections we can make to hopefully go in there and do something special. But to me, if you look at Graham Mertz, I just hope he does what he did yesterday for the rest of the year. To me, it was nothing crazy. He did his job. He didn't try to do too much. To me, there was one mistake. He didn't throw the ball away when he, like at the end of the game, he stuck the ball out, maybe got half a yard, maybe got less than half a yard. But I thought if he threw that away, like to me, he did everything he was supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that the offensive line in general gave him more time. Yeah, he still took 1 or 2 sacks, but I thought that he stood tall in the pocket. And what stood out to me, right? Last year, I don't want to say he got the yips, but what happened last season that he was rushing everything. He looked so much more comfortable staying in the pocket. Now, obviously, Illinois State's pass rush isn't even going to be as good as Washington State's that you're going to see next week, but definitely not Ohio State and some of the other Big Ten schools that the Badgers are going to face. That being said, he looked so comfortable. He stood tall in the pocket, and he delivered some really, really nice throws.
Dude, beautiful throws. I mean, there was no bad ones, really.
Yeah.
So listen, I'm happy. We just need Graham to be okay to good. Like he doesn't need to do too much. I love to see.
I'm going to push back. I think if the Badgers want to be better than, 9-3, Graham has to be between good and very good. I don't think being okay is going to cut it because I think you could call his last season somewhere between mediocre and okay. They need to be better than that if they are going to get 8 people out of the box for Braylon, right? So that Braylon can run against more 7 and 6 man boxes. Graham has to prove consistently that he can get the ball out, make the right read. And he did that really well. You saw him working his progressions and he loved hitting those tight ends, Clay Cundiff and Hayden Rucci. Hayden Rucci really stood out to me. I think both those tight ends played excellent. They both blocked well as well. Rucci's known as the blocker, not the receiver. He looked great running routes. Cundiff was getting some good blocks. So I was super happy with the tight end position.
Dude, even both Ches and Isaac caught a pass.
Yep.
So that Graham's doing the right things. He's checking down when he needs to. Listen, I'll take a 12 or 14 day almost every game.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real.
Let's be real. If the Badgers only have to pass 14 times, that means they're probably winning.
Right. Now, if they have to go 20 times against Ohio State or a Big Ten team, if he goes 16 for 20 for 180 yards, I'm okay with that. You don't want Graham to be put in a position to lose a game. And
no, that's correct.
With our defense, with our running game, and with the guys in the skill positions we have on the field, don't lose the game. Like to me, that's him being good. Is going 16 for 20, 180 yards, maybe a rush for 15 to 20 yards, throw the ball when we need to. Let's play our football. Our brand of football is like field position football.
Absolutely.
Right. So don't throw a pick. You get a pick 6, you're not coming back from that. You're not coming back. By the way, I just off a completely different subject. I love Isaac Garendo returning kicks.
Oh yeah, he got one chance. He took it 33 yards and looked great. I mean, he's the fastest guy in the team. He's the guy that needs to be returning kicks. I thought special teams were kind of up and down. The punt return unit had a couple issues when Ingram called for a fair catch or didn't call for a fair catch, ran backwards 7 yards and got tackled. Jay Shaw also got a penalty on that same play for holding, put the Badgers back in the, back way inside their 5-yard line, which gave Braylon Allen the ability to run 96 yards. So, I mean, at the end of the day, right, it's like, okay, well, that just set up Braylon to break a school record. Speaking of Braylon, the last thing I want to talk about on the offense, I just thought offensive line overall, solid. Let's talk about the running backs a little bit more and the fullbacks. You saw both Jackson Aker and Riley Nowakowski get in there, especially when they were going really heavy against the goal line. They brought in Nowakowski. He's a bit heftier of a guy than Aker. We saw Ches. We saw Julius Davis get some run at the end of the game. What was your thoughts on your position group?
I mean, Braylon Allen's a special guy. But what's cool is so is Ches. So we have Braylon Allen, Ches Malusi, and Isaac Arendo. These guys are starters if they're on any other team. So I love that. The fullback play was good. I could say it could still be better, and I'm excited for those guys to get in the film room. Like that's the whole point of these teams. Like you get in the film room, you see what you did, you see they were making huge hit contacts, but you got to stick to those contacts, right? You can't hit a dude, him bounce off, and then get an arm on the running back. So I was excited. I think that group is a special group. And if you have two fullbacks that can play and you can do this heavy on the goal line, and it's excuse me, it's going to be special. But those dudes are special.
Yep.
The tailbacks are special by themselves. And you legitimately have three starters. We are very fortunate.
I was super impressed with Ches. I was worried about him coming back. It's only been like, what, 8-9 months since his injury, maybe 10. 9, I think it's 10 months since his injury. That could be, what was it? That was an ACL. That's a year-long injury typically. So the fact that he came back, and I thought he looked really good, actually. I was super impressed. I thought he actually looked in some ways better than he did at the start of last season. Braylon was super patient. He was super patient. You saw on that 96-yarder, even when the guy comes near him in the hole, he just uses, he just went like this and then shoved the defensive lineman to the ground and took off. That was incredible. But he's a freak, man. He's an absolute freak. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, our guy Herbie, great game, 2 sacks. But that they're not satisfied with that. Shutout, pick 6. But let's face it, like Illinois State got more total yards than they expected. They gave up some big plays through the air. Hunter Wohler also went out with an injury and didn't return. The safety, we don't know if that's precautionary or not. We'll probably hear more during Paul Christ's press conference this week. But in Preston Zachman stepped up at safety afterwards, coming through with a really impressive and athletic interception. Mm-hmm. I was, overall, I thought the unit played pretty well. A lot of the second team guys impressed me when they got in there. Gio Paez, I can never remember how to pronounce his name. He got back there, perfect technique for a tackle for a loss there in the second quarter on the running back. I thought, all the linebackers who played, Jordan Turner was outstanding, as we kind of expected him to be, but I thought he hit harder than I expected him to as well.
I would say that the front played really well. The pass rush, yes, they moved the ball, but that quarterback took a beating. I don't think he didn't get hit at all. Like every pass play, he was getting hit by someone. Literally, we're like a quarter of a second away from 10 sacks in that game.
Yep.
To me, it was bananas.
Yep.
And I love to see that. I thought Latu played awesome.
He really stood out to me when he was in. Yeah.
He was all over the place on TV. Like if you see the guy's jersey everywhere, you know that guy's playing pretty well. And it wasn't on replays getting, embarrassed. He was playing and he hits too. Mm-hmm. I think these guys are young guys, right? We had 8 new starters this year
on defense. Yeah.
Listen, let's start with, there was a turnover for a touchdown, a pick 6, and they held him to 0 points. It's still really hard to do.
It is.
And they didn't play well. Like I thought they played great, but not super well out of the gates. And we gave up some big plays towards, I think Jimmy, when we get into the second half, we make so many good on the, like, what are they called?
On the fly adjustments.
On the fly adjustments. I got to get back into my football brain. On the fly adjustments, Jimmy could do that. So the second half to me was, they were not getting a lot. I mean, also they got their number one
tailback
halfback hurt,
who was their who's also a really good receiver out of the backfield as well, and that was unfortunate for them. But I think overall, like I said, the linebackers stood out. We talked about Turner, we talked about Herbig. Muma Jungmeta was everywhere. I think he led the team in tackles. You saw a lot of defensive backs rotating through on defense. We talked about Shaw's penalty on special teams, but I thought he did a really nice job for most of the day. And, overall, I there's things to work on. I still think that I was worried about some of those deep passes and the safety play a little bit, but the fact that Zachman and Leitu were able to step in and look good, especially after Wohler went down, I think that's a really good sign for the team sort of as a whole. So in special teams, really quickly, they had one nice kick return, but the punt return units weren't completely on point. But, it is what it is there. I think it's going to be a work in progress without a dedicated special teams coach this season.
You like Jimmy Leonard when we were there, you knew, and that it was known, he will return every kick, every punt, unless it's blatant, we're going to return it. I think they just need to figure out, and without a special team coach to really coach these guys, it's a little bit more difficult. Yeah. Everyone's trying to do a little bit here and there, but you have a position group that you have to get ready. It's very difficult.
Yep.
But you knew, so like the best guys were on punt return.
Yeah.
Because the best dudes, because Jimmy was our best guy and he was going to return it. So I think when Ingram and they can get their communications together and those dudes, like Shaw's just trying to make a play, he's trying to protect his guy. I get it. I'm okay with that. But I am, listen, I think it can only get better. This film is so important to everyone, individual progress and progression for the rest of the season. And that's what, to me, stood out. We won 38-0. We played pretty well in every facet of the game. I'm pretty happy with it. I was excited to watch. Like, Badger football's back. I'll be at the next 2 games. But I do think that this is a learning film, right? You go into it, everyone should probably get a B. I'm sure Coach Chris was like, listen, guys, 38-0, that doesn't really say what the game was like, right? You got to come out the gates. We got to do some of these things. We can't get penalties. But we didn't have any turnovers. Like, that's a big day for us. We caused turnovers. We didn't have any.
That was huge.
We didn't have really any mental breakdowns. We played 4-quarter football. We were physical. I mean, I'm excited. I think that these guys are going to play so much better next week. It's the first game. A lot of these dudes have never played on the field.
Yeah.
So, it's very exciting stuff.
It is. It absolutely is. All right. Well, I think it is 15 minutes actually on the nose right there, Bernie.
I'll just say that. Oh, penalty.
No, 15 minutes is up. It's the end of the quarter, my friend.
You know what? I loved watching the tight end play. I obviously love the backs, but I thought that they were 3 dudes caught football and 3 dudes played. We have more and more 3 tight ends, 2 fullbacks, 3 running backs. I mean, I would be scared if I was anybody else. Like, everyone is good.
Yeah,
so
solid.
It's exciting. It's exciting.
They're solid. We got Washington State coming up next week. It's going to be interesting. They've got a super talented quarterback, true dual threat guy who can really run and throw. They're going to be wide open. They're going to be throwing the ball 50 times a game. So that's going to be a really interesting team to face. We will be back later this week, talking about that game a little bit and talking with former Badger receiver AJ Taylor. Make sure you tune in for that one. And go back, listen to Joe Thomas interview from last week. That was special, man. That was really so special. Fun. He's an awesome guy. So until next time, this is the Believe in Badger Football podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, presented by betonline.ag. We'll see you later on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.